Yeah, hi there. These comments are for 7616. I'm just using some numbers to identify you. I'm not using any names here. So I just read your compare and contrast paper for English 106. So with yours, you ended up getting a 75 out of 100, so you had 30 points out of 40 according to the grading rubrics that I used. And the main thing, I think the main improvement for you is you just absolutely urgently needed a more coherent compare and contrast organization, beginning with a more sharply focused thesis around which you could organize the topics of those body paragraphs, but you didn't have a great connection of ideas here. So let's compare two introductions first of all. So we know what you said, so let's read them together side by side. So you said, Richard Marius is writing drafts article. He states the way in which he does his writing process. First, he suggests that it is good to make a list of points that should be covered, then turn that into an outline. Once that is done, he says to sit down for an hour and write without stopping. With doing that, he believes it could be. And then you go on and explain other aspects of Marius's article. Then you get to your thesis. You say, throughout this essay, I will be comparing Marius's writing strategy to my multi-draft writing project I did in my English 105 class. Now, as far as I can tell, and let me take a look at it just one more time. Okay, so if you refer to the multi-draft writing project in 105, you should probably restate that. And when you get into the body paragraphs, you can refer to it as a project or your English 105 paper. So you should refer to that a few times in those body paragraphs as a way of making connections. But when you got to your second paragraph, you just said, as I read the articles, I wrote down the important things. So what if you said this? As I read the articles, or actually before you say as, say for example or for instance. So say for example, as I read the articles for my research project for my English 105 class, I wrote down the important things I needed to. So if you just put those words in there, then that connects the purpose of that paragraph back to the thesis, and there's kind of a connection there. But let's read your thesis one more time. I want you to compare that with another one in the class. So you see, throughout the essay, I will be comparing Marius's writing strategy, but you don't say in what way you're going to compare it. So here's a student in the class who says this. Here's her thesis. When reading the writing drafts article, I found many similarities in our writing processes. But that's not enough. She doesn't just say that in a general sense. She then says in her thesis in the next sentence, especially when writing the first draft, we both believe it is best to write nonstop for an hour and to be open to new ideas that differ from our original outline. And then in the next sentence, she further develops her thesis when she says, also in the second draft, we both make radical changes to cut out information that does not connect to the thesis or add information to edit and restructure our essays. So the thesis is basically three different sentences, and it focuses around these similarities that the writer wants to make, I think, in the essay. Now check this out. This is not enough. So not only does this student have a little bit more focused thesis statement than yours, but she also refers or restates the key point of the thesis in her body paragraphs in the topic sentences. So let's take a look at paragraph 1. She says, when writing the first draft of her essay, Marius and I are similar because we both believe it is best to commit to our writing by staying on task for at least an hour straight. So that's the purpose of the topic, and the topic there ties back to the thesis. Your topic sentence in your second paragraph says, for the writing assignment I did, I read a few newspaper articles and then wrote a summary and analysis on them. But it doesn't really state what's being compared or what's being contrasted. And your paragraphs, honestly, they're not very developed. They're very short, choppy. You move on to another paragraph that may be only 2 or 3 sentences, then you're on to a new topic. That's typically not a good strategy for academic writing. It's typically a better strategy to take time, to develop points, even if it means you want to be more specific. For example, you probably tried to do a little bit too much in your essay. What if you only looked at your similarities and your differences in terms of how you and Marius approach your first draft? That's it. You don't worry about discussing a second or a third draft. You just focus on that one idea, and then you really try to develop that point. That would give you more depth, more progression of thought. You can probably control your organization a little bit better. Okay, let's take a look at this student's next topic sentence. She says, Marius and I are also similar when writing the first draft because we're both open to new ideas, even if they differ from our original outline. Again, there's a very clear compare and contrast purpose in that topic sentence. Now, when I take a look at your topic sentence in your third paragraph, you say, Marius stated that organization, spelling are not important in the first draft. That's the first idea, and that particular paragraph, you're finished in 2 sentences. That's not very good strategy, so that's not what I consider strong paragraphing. Typically in academic writing, your paragraphs need to go from about 50 to 150 words. That gives you more time to think through, develop, and illustrate your points for your audience. All right, so anyway, thank you for doing the assignment. You got a 75 out of 100, so a C. So you just didn't have the organization, you didn't have really the development that I expect in this paper, especially for the A and the B papers. All right, so on the next writing assignment, what could you do differently? Think about it for a minute. So I think there's 2 major issues for you right now. You want to make sure you organize your writing better than you did on the first paper. And number 2, make sure you develop the paper more. So push yourself to think a little bit more deeply, a little bit more critically about the topic. All right, thank you.